To close out the year, I'm rewinding and bringing back the most popular and most listened to episodes of 2024. I'll be back with new episodes on Monday, January 6th. But in the meantime, here is today's Best of Rewind episode. This week on the Retirement Quick Tips podcast, I'm answering your listener questions that were brought up in my last Office Hours Pick My Brain Office Hours session in August. Now, today's question, basically what it boils down to is, do I need long-term care? How should I plan for my own care needs if I need something later in life? The situation from this particular listener and her question are not uncommon. So she's not married. She lives alone. Most of her friends are all about her age. She does have a child, but the child is special needs. She says he has major special needs, and she's actually his legal guardian. So he's not in a position to be able to care for her. What do you do in one of these situations? Thankfully, she had already been talking to somebody who could help her. First of all, you really have to think about your situation, because if you're not married, even if you are married and you outlive your spouse and it's just you, who's going to take care of you? Who's going to make those decisions for you if you're no longer capable of doing that? So if you have children who can do that, multiple children who will take care of you and make decisions with your best interest in mind, then it's not as much of a concern. But in this case where she's wondering, okay, well, what do I do? Do I need long-term care? Maybe so. Now, she may or may not need long-term care policy. A lot of times, the long-term care policy may not be a good fit for single people because they're not trying to preserve assets for a spouse who might outlive them. So if there's a good chance that if you need long-term care someday, and you have enough assets to provide for those needs, you probably don't need a long-term care policy. Again, if you're single, what we don't want to have happen is you're married, you need some type of long-term care, especially if it's very expensive. You burn through a lot of your assets to pay for that because you didn't have a long-term care policy, or other things too, like you put a lot of strain. A lot of spouses who need long-term care end up staying at home for a lot longer than they should, simply because it's a lot more cost effective to do it that way. But that puts a lot of strain on the other spouse. It can lead to health issues for the other spouse. So anyways, that's a bit of a tangent, but you may still want and or need a long-term care policy, even if you're single. One of the reasons why is simply because you don't want to necessarily blow through all of your assets. Maybe you need to sell your home or get a reverse mortgage where now the bank owns your house. Or go to a Medicaid-funded assisted living or memory care facility. Now, I want to talk about this for a minute. Pre-COVID, about once a month, I would go and visit people in my church who were homebound. And there was maybe 6 to 10 people that I would go see regularly. And 2 of the people that I would see every month were twins. And these women, they were like 99 years old. And one of them, she was very heavily medicated. She was very ill. She ended up passing away not too long after I started going to visit these twins. But I thought it was so cute. There were twin sisters, never married, neither of them, never had any kids, and they lived together their whole life. And here they are at like 99 years old. And I called this place that they were living at. It was a very small, basically a home environment, but the people who owned this house had converted it to a long-term care facility. So there's probably like only, I don't know, 8 to 10 people living here. And it was a gorgeous house. It was very clean. The place smelled amazing because I would go during lunchtime and they would always be cooking something and the food smelled so good. Like you could tell that the people who lived there, they weren't stuck in their rooms. They were out and socializing. And I remember thinking like, dang, I want to live here. Like I wish I'd pay for this. This is pretty sweet. But I would also go to other facilities that were most likely funded by Medicaid and people who were there who couldn't afford the care that they were receiving. And some of these places, I walked in and I wanted to leave as soon as I got in there. It smelled awful. It was very like an institutional, very cold sort of feeling. It was just awful, awful, awful.
I felt so bad for the people who lived there because a lot of times I could tell there was this man I would always go see and his room smelled. And I always wondered, like, he wasn't able to go to the bathroom by himself or any of those things. And I just felt like he wasn't getting the care that he needed in this place. And so, yes, if you want a long-term care policy and you can afford to pay for that, and that will ensure that you will receive care in a good quality place and you'll be well taken care of, I would pay for that. I've seen with my own eyes and experienced this month in and month out as I would go and visit these people. I think that's about all I want to say. But if you have a unique situation and there's no clear answer of who could make decisions for you, if you were ever in a need where someone had to have decisions about your care or your money, your investments, make sure that you get your ducks in a row. You need to talk to a good quality, competent estate planning attorney who can advise you on maybe special trusts that you might set up, advise you on how you could appoint a trustee or a successor trustee, and how you can have maybe who should have power of attorney, things like that. So we got to get our ducks in a row so that you're not in a situation where you're receiving substandard care for a long period of time because of either lack of resources, financial resources, or lack of planning. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Ashley Michike, and this is the Retirement Quick Tips Podcast.